The quality I didn't think was suffice enough for you guys, but it's gonna be short and quick. If you guys check out my channel, one of the first things I published was my first episode of season one, the RayMoney Company Daily Discussions podcast, where one of the first topics was talking about the etymology of the N word. And I want to do more when it comes to explaining the deconstruction of words. Let me log in. Password. Let's take a look right here. You guys hear anything in the background? That's my Google Nest speaker. They just called Nest audio speaker, and it's giving me news regarding what's going on in the world. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, man, with Israel, Iran, the United States. Let's see how this plays out for the rest of the year. Hopefully, we can strike a deal or something. But let's go. Look in the podcast section right here. There's 8 episodes. We're on season 2 right now, so stay tuned for more episodes. I got a good one that's gonna come up soon. Right there, the etymology of the N word, and discussed about the high glucose levels. And also the previous live, some reason my mic just kept. Not some reason, it's my fault. I placed it incorrectly, and you can see my previous podcast, the audio quality wasn't the best. And now I'm using Riverside, which is a great way to filter out the bad audio leaks. And I'm also using the Rode wireless Me mics, which are great. I'm gonna watch that later. I like a lot of the new YouTube channels that are coming out. There's a lot of quality content. We need to get that to really blow up on YouTube. 2 comments. I need to update this after I finish the live. Actually, let me update it now since I'm doing it. But I'm going to show you guys why I want to really explain more about the etymology of the N word, because it goes deeper than that. I didn't get even as far as I wanted to. And when I re listened to the whole episode, I realized, damn, there was more that I could have really touched on. I think that from this title alone, the subject matter that she's going to talk about is actually going to be useful. So I'm gonna definitely watch this later. Let me edit this. Let me just do it now so I don't forget. And right there, if you see that, that's me attaching what I'm about to show you. I think I've updated because I made a copy of it. Right here on my Google Drive. Copy of English.png. This is where I wrote down a topic regarding English itself. And actually, English is also a subject. That's a funny thing when it comes to these words. They can mean so many different things. A subject is, as I would describe, a genre. It encompasses so many different things. Think of hip hop. You got that's a genre, but the subgenre, you got horrorcore, you got gangster rap, yada yada yada. A topic. That's what a topic is. Basically, one specified lane. Let me make sure I got this shared. Let me copy the link. Put it. Then perfect. We're good to go. Da da da. Look at this. Let me increase it more, guys. English is derived mostly from ancient Greek and Latin, with some Arabic apparently. English is one of the few languages that took so much from other cultures as languages versus any other in the world. And that's why I believe English is the hardest language to learn, because There's so many different rules and so many similar patterns that it's hard to differentiate from what is formal and informal. Because there's a lot of adverbs that I created off of adjectives that I didn't even realize. Hey, uh, these are actually words. The older I get, the more I'm recognizing that. I did make a note right here that Greek mythology is really important to understand. And Catholicism is one of the biggest, not one of the biggest religions, it's one of the biggest sects, SECT, under Christianity, which is the biggest religion in the world. So Greek mythology goes hand in hand with that, and it really does play a part in our everyday society. But I'll talk about that later another time. When it comes to English, we got to understand it's not just with English and French or in Spanish and whatever. These languages have to be broken down to the pronunciation and phonetics. Those two are branches of linguistics. Linguistics is the study of language. Pronunciation, just for the shorthand version, is how you speak, how you say something, versus phonetics, which thankfully my dad, if he's gonna watch his live, I don't know, but thankfully for him, he's been teaching me that since I was a kid in elementary school. Phonetics is how you sound a word or a letter out. There's a big difference, and they really matter when you start learning your consonants and your vowels. To get back to the N word, I will say folks have been mispronouncing it wrong because phonetically they start off with the wrong basis. Pronunciating A, you just say A and you accentuate A. E, you just say E, I. You say it as if it's your own eyeball, the first syllable of it. And I don't have to keep going on with the O and U and sometimes Y, which English is the only language where the Y is sometimes a vowel. And that is because sometimes it could be a or a block, which is what a consonant is. In that case, it's really a block because a fricative usually ends with hissing and buzzing. Well, that's why when you say a word such as curtain, you hear a little hiss. Curtain. It's a stop. Actually, sorry. So a Y is more of an A. My apologies. I mixed it up. So yeah, that's why. But phonetically, if we contrast how A is sound when you pronunciate it versus phonetically, A is sound as ah, like ah, when you're opening your mouth when a doctor is checking your temperature by putting the stick on top of your tongue. While E is like ah, but even though we sound it out that way, it's closer to A. So while A is ah, E is ah. You see how confusing that could be? That's why I had to. That's why I had to write A because basically E is the taking the way we actually pronunciate A. So A is ah, E is A. So A. I'm trying to say it. I'm trying to pronunciate it and phonetically say it to show you the difference. So A is ah, E is A, and the I is actually phonetically sounded out as E. That's how it is. So for example, if you have somebody that has the name um, Iryo, you wouldn't say Rio, you would say Rio. That's why the capital of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, you don't say Rio, you say Rio. Portuguese is another language from the European area that has a lot of similarities with with Spanish and French because they're so close to the Latin uh, culture back in those days, which was a prominent language that was a spawn of what they now speak. And then you got O, which is ooh. Think of the the young Ma song. I almost said young Miami song. My goodness, young Ma song. That song came out almost 10 years ago, guys. Think of it like ooh. That's how O would be phonetically sounded out. Ooh. That's why the WH, which can also be flipped like a CH, when you say what, that's why it ends up with woo. So it wouldn't be whoa, it'd be woo. And then you is just Think of like That's why I had to make that little goofy ass Patrick Star reference right here. Less pitch than an A. So, and it's even, as you heard like 2 minutes ago, it's even hard for me sometimes to remember that with the A. So A is like ah, E is A, or A, I is E, O is ooh, U is Right there is the table showing the differences to make it even easier. So in the Latin, the five vowels, when they exclude the Y, is A, E, U, hmm And if you want to be even more technical, the Y would be yeah. Like that's what the Y would be. Just if anybody wanted to know how you would sound it out. And I remember in second grade learning how to sound out the alphabet. I don't know if we still do that anymore because when I was in second grade, I was '04. So maybe a lot of kids nowadays aren't learning that, but that's how you would sound out. Yeah. I mean, why? See, I'm sounding out versus actually saying the word now. It's funny. So if anybody has kids, please ask their kids if they can actually phonetically say the alphabet. Just something I just want to throw out there. Lastly, actually two more things. See, Niger, the country in Africa that everybody knows, but forgets that this term has been around since the ancient world and modern civilization in Europe, when people would call each other Negro, which really is Negro because, as I said, the the right here is pronounced is phonetically sound as ah, so Negro. People call it Negro, but it's really Negro. So we break down the syllable of Niger, which is N-E, and I'm going to show you a funny thing right after this that whatever words that we see, the original Genesis is not how it was written. Everything in life has an initial starting point before it gets to its final part. So don't look at something and think, oh, that's just what it is. But that's just a little side note. So the I right here is going to be E. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be ni, and then the E is going to be A. So Nigar. That's how you would actually say it. But the G is a consonant, and it helps accentuate that. And that's why it's called Niger. But hey, that's what I can just tell y'all. And also, just a little side part, enunciation is something that is close to the branch of pronunciation, because which I'm not doing the best right now, because this is still something I've known for years and I've studied, and I still, because of your indoctrination, after they teach you, because they teach you really young about this stuff, and then you start slowly not only forgetting it, get indoctrinated with other stuff that disrupts the fundamentals that you learned. It's really easy to just fall back on bad habits, but I'm trying to work on that. So the enunciation, which is just the act of saying something clearly, that's probably another reason why folks have a hard time with communication and words in general. It could be down to different accents, different regions you're from, your diction, and how you're using it. That's what I assume. And as I said previously a few minutes ago, with seeing a word and how it was originally, look at Stoic. I Google words sometimes and I just take a moment to see what the base was. Stoic etymology. Etymology, the study of words. And just a little fun note right here. Ology, I learned in biology years ago, is ology just means the study of. So anything that is before ology, know that that's the study of whatever that original syllable or two syllables is containing. And Stoic is Greek, but you see how the C is actually replaced with a K. And in my notes, I made a good point to tell you guys about how WH can be CH. So C can be flipped with K, PH can be flipped with F. I should have wrote that in there. So there's only so many letters and words to go in any language. So they're going to be used in similar manners. Just want to let you guys know that. But hey, if anybody thought that this was something that really edified them, please let me know. Remember, Latin, the way we say our vowels and forget the Y is A, E, U, E. It's not gonna be easy, but think about it. So when you see a consonant and right after it is a vowel, truly think, am I pronunciating this right? And before that, how does it sound phonetically in your head so you can say it correctly? If you think about the sound first and then you are able to say it, that's the right way of communication, in my opinion. And that's the basis of starting good communication. Once we understand that, then we start applying it to reasoning, deductive reasoning, whatever, critical analysis, whatever. We start slowly taking it in our head before we expel it from it. Boom. But hopefully, anybody that's listening takes. Sorry for the background noise. Anybody that's listening, I really hope that you guys took something from this. You check out the podcast, the first podcast I did, and this is going to be shared there. So if you want any more questions answered, please ask me. And always try to learn words. Not even just that, just learn something. Stephen A. Smith said this years ago, also in high school, that he's always learning a new word a day. And I do agree that, hey, why not? Our brains are a muscle. Keep using it. All right. Take care, everybody. Peace. RayMoney's out, and have a great day.